number one problem, which concentrates all the other problems, is capitalism. Capitalism as such originates the environmental questions. Our planet is burning, and we have to take that incredibly very serious. But also capitalism encapsulates the destruction of social networks due to the immense inequalities that capitalism has produced. So I would concentrate that within capitalism, you would have a strong social problem of inequality, but also of separation and division of societies. And definitely the environmental question would be, for me, those three. It's very important that we see capitalism from a historical perspective. It's a system that has evolved for over 500 years, or more or less 500 years. And I don't think it's possible to destroy it or eliminate it in our lifetimes, unless, of course, some kind of a tremendous catastrophe happens, which is not out of the question. But if things continue the way they are, it looks that capitalism will continue to dominate for many decades, if not centuries. So the position for all of us that discuss anti-capitalist agendas is first to situate where we are and what we can do. I think the role of many of us is to produce knowledge that generates friction, that allows future generations to advance on what we have developed. It sounds like it's little, but I honestly think that it's a lot to do. We have the responsibility of thinking that a better future is possible. In today's climate, not a lot of people believe in this. So in my generation, I think that's a big task, to imagine new formations, and hopefully, people will continue to pursue them. Architects cannot do anything. No one can do anything by themselves. I think one of the biggest inheritance that capitalism has given us is the fragmentation of everything around us. Capitalism is very contradictory. On one hand, it operates at an ecological scale, at a global scale. So it unifies everything into the models of consumption and the economy and exploitation. But at the same time, in order for capitalism to do well, it needs to fragment in pieces, it needs to divide. So we have on one hand the architect is specialized in doing one thing, and then the engineers and the others, and then the sociologists and anthropologists and so on. I think the future actually is the elimination of such distinctions. We can only combat capitalism if we think from an ecological standpoint. And thinking from an ecological standpoint, we have to remove ourselves from specialized sort of practices. I'm talking about the social aspect of the social imaginary of the architect as such would do much, much better if it unified itself with other forms of thinking, other forms of thought, that think in a more ecological form. Yeah. For many years, I dedicated to develop a practice that was based on community engagement. We started a practice together with other three friends. We were trying to advocate for them and mediate any sort of pressures that comes from the economy or pressures that comes from the government, such as ideas of gentrification and displacement and lower economies and labor problems, etc., housing. And we would be working with these organizations, mostly community organizations. We were like support arm, support structure, and that practice was called cohabitation strategies. It still exists. But from 2 years, I've been refocusing. I am convinced that we cannot do much at that level because the system on top is so corrupt and so corroded that even if we manage to create an incredible power within a community, the laws, regulations, and norms will never support what you want to do. And so I'm right now focusing on the top down. I think, something I used to hate, the top down, but the top down in a very different thing is thinking of projects in which one can infiltrate governmental agencies and make them change their mind in the production of policy and norms, from giving everything to the private to the government supporting more community works and people's power, right? Giving them more support into their production of their own environment. We are slowly migrating into a new platform that we call Urban Front, and we're trying to develop this international consultancy agency to support progressive governments to develop policy that actually benefits communities.
Against capital.
Against capital, yes.